In this video, we're going to talk about the ERC, everything that you absolutely need to know before you apply, or if you've already applied, to learn a little bit more about what you just applied for. A lot of times you may hear that, hey, the ERC is not a real thing, it's just a scam. Well, it is very much a real thing. This is on the actual IRS website, sometimes called ERC, Employee Retention Credit. And it is for having kept employees on staff during 2020, 2021, the midst of the pandemic. When things got scary, the government is giving you a tax credit for having those employees on rather than getting scared and just firing everyone. So that's the source of this, and it has been a while since the pandemic, but if your company does qualify for it, it makes a lot of sense to still apply for it because the funding is still available as of now. So let's go into the 2024 updates. What has changed is that there was a IRS moratorium, which said we're going to pause this processing for a little bit to keep up with all the applications that we have in the influx, and then January 1st, restart and get processing all the applications. This moratorium also gave people the ability to withdraw an application, and they did heavy promotion on how there's a lot of different scam companies, a lot of mills out there that just have maybe one or two employees, a CPA, and they're just milling through people without actually credibly doing the ERC, and maybe they don't even have a CPA actually looking over the filing. They're just maxing you out for each individual of the 6 quarters available. All right, so let's go into the next part. All right, so the next part is how do you actually qualify for this employee retention credit? Look, not all businesses do qualify. You need to actually have had W-2 employees that you actually paid FICA taxes for. If you just had 1099 contractors, this is not the program for you. There's also a self-employment tax credit. Might have a little bit more information about that. There's a link in the description. But the other important thing to note is that if you're also a 50% owner of the business, you also wouldn't qualify even if you pay yourself W-2 wages. So this is who's eligible, and let's look quickly in how to qualify. So one of the main ways on how you qualify is with COVID nominal impact. And the IRS states it is, was there a more than nominal impact to a more than nominal portion of your business? And they define nominal as 10%. So whether that's actual sectors that went down or actually employee working hours, did you have to shut down the business for more than 10% of the time? If you had 10 branches and one of them had to shut down, it represented 10% of your actual business capacity. There's a lot of different ways of slicing the pie, but nominal impact is a factor that many people use to qualify by the book for the ERC. Another way of qualifying is full or partial shutdown, also supply chain disruption. So this is all under the umbrella of COVID impact. So there's a variety of different ways that your business could have had this, whether it was shutting down part of the business, whether you could not actually have gone to work, people had to go home, they had to be purchased computer equipment, along with normally your business would have gone to a lot of trade shows each year and all the trade shows were shut down. There's a variety of different ways that COVID could have tremendously impacted your business and the way you operated. And of these COVID impact qualifications, one of the biggest is capacity constraints. Was there any sort of capacity constraint or limitation to access to the business, to the office, to the actual facility? Were there limited hours? A lot of the times, most businesses had some sort of a capacity constraint in 2020 or 2021. All right, let's go into the other way that everyone's heard about on how to qualify. This is the way most CPAs use. This is the only way most CPAs use, and they don't actually look at COVID impact and nominal impact. So that's just a good thing to consider when you're looking at getting your ERC done with an actual CPA, because it probably takes about 80 hours of continuing education, about 300 pages of IRS documentation to learn about the entire ERC process. And this is just straightforward. But if you do it, you're probably going to get 5,000 to 7,000 per employee, rather than roughly what we're seeing about 19,000 to 21,000 by using all 3 qualification methods by the book. So this method is called significant decline. For example, let's look at this graphic. Did you have in Q2 of 2019, pre-COVID, did you have 100,000 in revenue, for example, and did that revenue drop by 50% or more? So then you'd look at 2020 Q2, and was that revenue down by 51%? So if you're making 49,000, then you'd qualify with significant decline. So if we look at that same $100,000 of revenue in Q2 of 2019, compare it over to 2021, if it went down to 80,000 or less, you would qualify for that quarter under significant decline. Also, so if you want this whole spreadsheet to look at it by yourself, there's a link in the description for that. Also, if you had any questions and wanted to jump on a quick 10 to 15 minute call, happy to jump on a call with you. Check the link in the description. The simple question is this worth your time? And how much is the actual payout? The question is, what would I be eligible for? To put it simply, it's $26,000 max per W-2 employee you had on staff. We're actually seeing if you did receive PPP 1 and 2, it's probably in the range of $19,000 to $21,000 per W-2 employee. And how this stacks up is it's about $5,000 for 2020 and $777, $21,000 for 2021. Add those two together, $26,000. So let's look at this in terms of business size. If you have 5 employees, conservatively, you'd be making roughly up to $100,000. 10 employees, $200,000. 20, $400,000. 50 would be $1 million. 100 employees would be $2 million. Granted, you're not always probably going to get that much, but it is a possibility. This isn't the max either. This is a fairly conservative amount. So if you haven't got the ERC, it's probably well worth your time to look into it to see if you actually qualify. And a lot of times CPAs will just blanketly tell you you do not qualify because they looked at that significant decline and they saw you didn't take that big revenue hit, and then they stopped looking there. So the big thing that has changed in 2024 is there are a lot of ERC scams, or a lot of mill houses they call them, that just quickly churn you out an ERC. They don't do qualifications, calculations. They don't give you detailed reports on if and why you qualify for each employee. So that's a big red flag. And a lot of people aren't real businesses. It's like a single person who uses a, accountant in the India or Philippines to start churning these out. And it's something that everyone has to be a little bit cautious for. Make sure you're working with a real business, or if you're doing it yourself, you have really dove into the IRS code, and make sure you're doing it all by the book and using all the methods, nominal impact, COVID impact, significant decline, to qualify your business. And just to show you this is a real deal, a tax preparer was arrested for over $124 million in phony tax credits. Some people taking advantage of this, even CPAs and tax preparers, who are maybe doing things not by the book. Maybe they're just maxing out companies for the ERC without actually doing due diligence, and that can cause some issues. So it's really good to make sure that you're working with someone who you can trust and who does a good job and has a history of doing this. Someone who's just done their first or second ERC is probably not the best person for you. You don't want someone trying to learn how to do the ERC on your company. You want someone experienced. So, which brings me to my next point, working with companies that are reputable. There's 2 or 3 companies that are the biggest out there who have done this. I personally would recommend 2 of the 3, so let's just jump into those. These are companies that I have experience working with. Accelerate Tax, real company, 150 reviews, 4.7. You go over to the website, it's a real business because they actually have employees. A lot of times you type in the ERC company into LinkedIn, there's no employees, or it's just one guy. A little bit worrisome. This is their website, real business. They do good work. Another business is Jorns and Associates. I think they're the biggest in the space. 165 employees. They do business economic stimulus. So if you want me to help you figure out which is the best business for you to connect with, feel free to give me a call. Also, feel free to pick up the infographic in the description. It's very helpful to see if you're qualified. It'd be a good fit for you. So this is Jorns and Associates, a solid business. I think they've processed over 18,000 employee retention credits. So they definitely know what they're doing. And they also have 160 staff that are just working on this year after year. So if you want a good company, connect with me. I'll help see if maybe the ERC is a good thing for your company and the right company to process with depending on your circumstances. So in broad strokes, if you're still considering or thinking about the ERC, it's definitely something worth looking into. But seeing we're in 2024, it's really important that you get it done by the book. Many times there are different scam companies, or you have a CPA that really doesn't know what they're doing. It's really important to find a company that knows what they're doing. There's a ton out there. You're probably getting hit with so much marketing and you don't know exactly where to turn or who to talk to. So I'm free to jump on a quick 10 to 15 minute call if you have any questions. I'm not trying to force you to work with me, but just good to get a little bit more knowledgeable about the ERC before you jump in and actually apply for it. Thanks for watching, and make sure you check the links in the description for the infographic, and then also to book a quick 10 to 15 minute call with me if you have any questions. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video.